Welcome to Sports Overtime. We had a great week breaking down the biggest topics in sports on Southeast Sports Plus. Here's the best of. This is not like what it used to be back in like the 80s and 90s where you had to have a running game be the leading part of your offense.
Right.
But you can't have a non-existent running game.
Correct.
And I think that's where Alabama was. Their running game just seemed to be that they couldn't find any situation going there. I think that's the biggest issue.
And I think part of the struggle, too, was probably some injuries early on in the season and just trying to find who they had to really rely on in the backfield. So I think, if they can start off on a better note this season, it might go a little better for them.
Right. Jam Miller had that broken collarbone for a while. They could not just get any consistency there in the running game. Patrick, we were able to see literally quite firsthand their number one running back out of their recruiting class. He ends up winning Mr. Football. This is E.J. Crowell of Jackson, Alabama. He actually reclassifies. He's supposed to be a senior going into this year. He reclassifies much in the same way that Ryan Williams did. Do you expect him to be that next guy in that kind of takes the place of what we've seen with old running backs like Gabriella was talking about with Nick Saban?
Well, I'll peel back the curtain here for a little bit because we actually aired his commitment live on WKRG.
That's right.
Back in June, and that was my second week of working here, I think it was.
I didn't realize that was that early, yeah.
I was so used to upstate New York high school football where the guys are pretty, they have the talent, but they're raw and they're not as big as what you'd expect the guys to be in college. When I saw EJ for the first time, I'm like, that dude is ready.
Yeah.
Like, he was ready to go before his senior year even happened. And, I mean, some of these numbers are just absolutely unreal. More than 2,600 rush yards, 209 carries. You and I basically played this game for Gerhard at the end of the season. We were like, all right, how many offensive series is he going to play? Is he going to play 2 or is he going to play 3? Because it would be handoff, 75-yard touchdown. All right, sit on the bench. You're already up 21-0, and it's like 3 minutes into the first quarter.
I was literally about to say, these numbers are actually really watered down what he could have done because his team was so dominant.
Right.
There were games where he was out in the second quarter.
Right.
And so this could have been 3,000 yards easily. Easily could have been 3,000 yards. I know it's hard. It's a hard job to ask any freshman running back, especially a kid that's coming in as I guess he'll be 17 when he walks into that campus. But do you expect him to be at least be running back one or get a lot of reps?
Right, and that's what I was going to say. I don't know what the statistics are around all of college athletics, but at least just what from I remember at my time at Tennessee, it felt like, running backs who had these type of stats in high school, you get really excited about, but it's almost like it's so hard to perform that way once you get to college because it's just such a different level of talent all around. You don't quite have the lanes, you don't quite have the looks. The game speeds up once you get into college. So, I mean, these stats are unreal, and I think they'll definitely give them a shot, but it doesn't always translate as well.
Right, and this is a really talented Alabama freshman class, obviously led by E.J. Crowell. He led his team to 2 state championships in high school, and that's the biggest thing. Like you were saying, it's kind of hard to project what these guys are going to be on that next level. It does feel like, though, Alabama has a glaring hole there at running back and a possible guy that can help fix things. And we got a chance to hear from Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer on those incoming freshmen and what they'll need to prove here in the spring.
Yeah, I think it's too early to just sit and pick guys up. I mean, I'm really pleased with them as a whole. I think it starts with, the way that they've built their bodies up. Some guys, and I know you guys have seen we released the weights and some guys have put on some really good weight. And it's exciting to see that already and what that could be now, but especially in the fall as they continue to feel that weight and move with it, the horsepower underneath the pads when we put those on. The staff did a great job, I think, recruiting guys that can come in like we did the last 2 years that can play early. These guys are going to have to figure it out, the learning curve we talk about with being new, and get out there and be ready to compete. They get the install now, they get the install again in the summer, they get the install in the fall. And so by that time, there's a lot of guys that I know will be able to help us out.
I saw a stat that just blew my mind. The fact that South Carolina is 20-1 under Coach Don Saley in the SEC tournament games in Greenville, which is just insane, going up to this. And so I want to get from your perspective for Texas, also only being in the SEC for 2 years now, like what are the bragging rights at right now?
Well, the problem is they can turn around and see him again real quickly like they did last year in the Final Four, so they might be short-lived. But this one's special, I'm sure, for Vic Schaefer because it's a trophy, and he did it in their backyard against South Carolina. You know, 5 straight years now, Texas has either won an outright conference title, a share of a conference title, or a conference tournament. That's in the Big 12, and that's in the SEC. So pretty amazing run they're on. But, yeah, this was a big one. And maybe the more important thing that it did, it might get them to Fort Worth in the regional rather than Sacramento. Now, you might get differing opinions on that, saying South Carolina did enough, winning the regular season, only 1 loss, winning by 2 games. They deserve to be in Fort Worth, not shipped out there. We'll see next Sunday. But it's a trophy. And that's the most important thing is they're SEC tournament champs, and they were going to be a 1 seed regardless. So it's just the fact that they did it, and now they've beaten them 2 out of 3 times this year. Are
there any certain things that you do with your guys, like you talked about with Matthew, you know, telling him early on that, hey, you're not playing right now, but you will play, and a guy like Ricky as well, that is there anything that you do psychologically with these guys, collectively and individually, to let them be in a great headspace to play their best golf?
Well, you bring up a great point, and I think that's the difference maker at this level. You know, we're obviously very blessed to be here at the University of Florida. We can attract some of the best talent in the world, but a lot of other teams have talent as well. And emotional control and being able to be patient and wait out the adversity that's inevitable in the game of golf is the difference at this level. And we coach that really, really hard. So, you know, Dudley Hart, our associate head coach here, believes in the exact same thing. And we hammer our guys from day one. There's a certain way that they're going to conduct themselves and a certain way that they're going to approach adversity in our program. And that's expected. And it doesn't always go perfect when you have, you know, 18 to 22-year-old young men who are growing up and maturing at different rates. But, you know, if we can be the calmest and most patient and most controlled team in the most high-pressured moments, that gives us a little edge, and it continues to pay off. So you picked up on that great. Golf's just a unique sport because you're out there for 4 to 5 hours on the golf course, and you're only hitting the golf ball for such a short period of time. All that dead space there, you got to be using it to your advantage, and it's all about what's going through your head.
Yeah, and specifically at this time of year where you just have the SEC championship right around the corner. And like you said, you know, that's the really big event of golf for you guys at Florida. So what is your message specifically to the guys at this time of year, knowing what is to come just around the corner?
Yeah, we've been building for the SEC championship since August. You know, that it really is our focus to be able to, you know, shine and be at our best that week. But it's just constant growth. You know, we had a little bit of a setback, I would say, last week in Las Vegas. We had won 4 tournaments in a row, and I think the guys were probably feeling pretty good about themselves and had everyone telling them how good they were. And sure enough, we went out and didn't play very well. It was probably our worst event since mid-October. But I think it was a perfect wake-up call. I think our guys realized that, you know, we'll be an average team really quickly if we let the things slip that are important to us. So glad we got that wake-up call, and we're getting Luke back healthy now, which is obviously a big piece of our lineup. So really, really excited about this team, and I do know, just, you know, when it comes down to that mental aspect, that week at the SEC is going to be very intense and high pressure. And, you know, you're going to have some of the best teams in the country chasing us down. So we got to be rested and ready for that. So I'm excited just talking about it here. I can't wait to get going.
Hey, Coach, real quick before we let you go, we'll talk about you here for a second. Obviously, you played on the Canadian Tour. You also had a pretty good amateur career, ended up finishing as a semifinalist at Marion back in the day. I went through the archives, and I found a great picture.
Where did you get that?
I don't know. I got to keep my sources pretty tight. But obviously, with Marion being the site of the U.S. Amateur this year, what are some of the hidden quirks about that golf course that could throw some of these amateurs for a wrench this year?
Yeah, a lot less gray hair in that picture right there, for sure. I miss that young guy. But yeah, Marion, tons of tradition. I had never been there before I played the U.S. Amateur that year, but obviously fell in love with the place. It's very unique because it doesn't have the same length in distance as some of the new age golf courses, but they always have very thick rough, very undulated, firm greens, and it just really makes a player think. And you got to position your ball in the right spot. You got to be very, very accurate. And every time that they've had a big time championship there, it's provided great drama. So I think the whole world's going to fall in love again with Merion here. I know they have a U.S. Open coming up a few years after this U.S. Amateur. So amateur golf's going to be welcome back to Merion. It'll be fun for me. I'm probably going to caddy for one of my guys that is playing in that event. So it'll be fun to go back there and hopefully help them make a run. But Merion's a really, really special place that's got a ton of USGA history.
No question about it. It'll be a full circle moment for sure. Coach Deacon, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Southeast Sports Plus. Gabriella mentioned the SEC Championship coming up in April. 2 pit stops, one in Southern California, one in Naples, Florida, right before then. Coach, continued success. Stay healthy along the way. We'll catch you again down the road.
Thanks for having me, and really appreciate it. You guys were ready to go today. Very sharp with some of the things you came up with. So thanks for having me on.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime. And remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, from 2 to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device. So Coach Calipari can basically crystallizing the fact that, hey, these two players are kind of competing for the same title week to week in the SEC and then game to game. This is our first time talking to you since the postseason awards are out. Are you surprised of the sweep that Darius Acuff essentially brought out the broom and won Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year, and they didn't give it to somebody else?
Gerhard, you know the answer to that.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
You know the answer to that. I am not surprised at all because I said he should be those things. Yeah. I literally said, what? Oh, how many weeks have I been on the show? 5 weeks, 6 weeks now in a row where I've been like, give him SEC Player of the Year, give him these awards. And he absolutely should get them. They're actually campaigning right now, Arkansas, for the National Player of the Year for him, right? He needs to be, yes, he needs to be in that conversation a lot more than he is being featured right now. Now, there are some people talking about him, absolutely, but he needs to be in that conversation. The things that he is doing on the court is unprecedented and just incredible. I mean, I can't even fathom some of the things that I've just seen him do in games, and it's just it's incredible because he is a freshman as well, right? It's incredible because this is his first time walking into a college basketball scene, and he's doing all of these things that haven't been done in the SEC since what, Pete Maravich?
Right.
I mean, it's haven't been done since Pete Maravich. So I mean, if we're talking about legends right there, he's solidifying himself as a legend. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Really, I'm not. I kind of agree with Coach Cal. I think he may not win the National Player of the Year, but he certainly does need to be in the conversation a lot more than he has been, I guess, because it feels like sometimes you'll turn on the national shows and you'll go, oh, we're talking about all the people, we're talking about all these amazing players across college hoops, and Darius Acuff doesn't get a mention.
Right.
And I was watching CBS Sports the other day. They had one of their analysts get on and do who would you rather have take the final shot? And he went through all the players, and when they got to Darius Acuff, Darius Acuff wasn't beaten. He said, hands down, it's Darius Acuff every time. There's a reason for that, y'all. There's a reason. So it's
good,
like
he's
I keep
clutch.
wanting to, yes, exactly. I just want to bang my head against the wall and be like, guys, what are we doing here?
Right.
We need to talk about him more.
Have Trey Phelps on our program for multiple reasons. Trey's one of the hottest hitters in all of the SEC right now. We will get to your hitting streak in just a moment, but first, you are on fire this season, batting over 400. What has led to all of this early success here, Trey?
Yeah, just being able to take pitch by pitch, at bat by bat, and just being able to see the numbers take care of themselves has definitely been a blessing.
No question about it. You have a 27-game hitting streak. It was the most dating back to last season. If you go back to last season and then your off season and then what you've been able to do this season, what has led to what has been the nice bridge between what you did last year and what you're doing this year?
Yeah, just maturing and being able to just know that I played at this exact level for a few years now. So kind of just knowing what's going to come and being able to take pitches and capitalize on pitches that I usually miss last year and the year before.
Trey, let's talk a little bit more about this 27-game hitting streak. It's something that hasn't been broken in, over 20 years. Is it something that you kind of started to think about as the games went on? What was your mentality going into this?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it was a thought of mine until it was brought up in an interview, I want to say last week, but no, I wouldn't say I really actively think about it going into the box, kind of just staying in my approach and just kind of getting what needs to be done at that moment.
Well, especially with the pedigree that they've had. Yeah. I mean, this is a team, like you mentioned, they've won a national championship. They won one was the last one with Carmelo that year.
Their only one.
Yeah, as a Final Four team. And obviously, we talked about it during the break that Syracuse beat your Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, unfortunately,
if you were here for that,
which made you think this team had some potential, but it was smoke and mirrors.
I know. I was thinking, Patrick, where did things go wrong? Because when they beat my Vols, I was like, ooh, they must be good.
Well, I'm no basketball analyst like some of the other coaches and players are, but it felt like every time you watched the Syracuse team, the potential was absolutely there. They had all the talent in the world. This was probably the best roster that Adrian Autry had. But for some reason, watching them on offense just made you want to turn the TV off.
Right.
0 offensive sets. It was really just 5 guys just doing things on the fly. The defense was really good this year, and that's been a problem in years past. That's honestly, the defense in years past has been some of the reasons why they lost so many games. But I will say this. He has been consistent for all the wrong reasons. 9 games in each of his 3 seasons were decided by double digits in the wrong way.
Wow.
That you just cannot have that.
That will seal your fate. That will definitely seal your fate. And with every rainstorm, there's a rainbow at the end of it. So we do want to end on a positive and bringing it back to the SEC. Yeah. There's a certain face I guess you want to see.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sitting here like, why should I care about Syracuse? And people in Nashville, you should be a little bit concerned because would Mark Byington leave Vanderbilt, who is not historically a basketball powerhouse, for Central New York in Syracuse, who is definitely a basketball powerhouse? It almost feels like there's just a sleeping giant ready to be awoken in Central New York.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime. And remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, from 2 to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device.
I enjoy the game of golf. I think it's the perfect way to spend a Saturday. So I'm actually really excited to watch this weekend and kind of get up to date on my current golf.
Yeah.
I've been to a few tournaments in the SEC with golf. I actually went with Tennessee women's golf to the SEC championship.
Nice.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So it's been cool kind of watching how college golf has evolved over the years.
Yeah, definitely. That team sport mentality, you get a good sense of the way that these teams are. We had a chance to talk to a couple of golfers here, golf coaches on this show as well. Patrick, as you get ready for now the Players Championship, your overall thoughts, I'm sure we'll do some picks a little bit later, your overall thoughts about where this tournament kind of sits in the pantheon as we get ready for the majors.
Yeah, I think this is probably, outside of the Masters, the most iconic tournament on the PGA Tour, just because of that 17th green there at TPC Sawgrass. As you take a look at the last 5 winners, Rory McIlroy looking to defend his title from last year after that thrilling playoff with J.J. Spawn, who Spawn ended up going on to win the U.S. Open. Didn't have to worry about a playoff there. But as you can see, Scottie Scheffler went back-to-back in 23 and 24, Cameron Smith in 22, and former Alabama star Justin Thomas in 21. This is going to be a little bit interesting because I feel like we're starting to see a little bit of rumors here about the PGA Tour new schedule that's apparently coming out soon. A lot of the players, including Rory McIlroy, think that this should be the 5th major in golf. I think so. It's that iconic at this point. But at the same time, the golf course to these pros, not to me, which we'll get into in a minute, is a lot easier than some of the other courses in and around majors.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Overtime tonight. Remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, Monday to Friday from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Apple TV, Roku, or Fire TV device. Good night.